All right.
Yeah?
I think we're
You ready
going.
to... Oh! Do, 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 do. Never mind.
You didn't sing the earbud song?
The Airbud song? I don't know. Is there an Airbud song?
Yeah, that's the one that goes, y'all ready for this? Ba-da-da-bum-bum-bum-bum-bum-bum-bum.
Song ever.
What? Yeah,
Isn't that for every sports song besides the Baylor Bears Go Bears? Like,
yeah, but like that's the one that uh, in my generation got real famous for Airbud because it didn't matter what Airbud did in the trailer. They started playing that song. Y'all ready for this? And then like he would, just start like running with the basketball, and then Bill Cobbs would say, "Ain't no rule say a dog can't play basketball." And then so it'd be like, hey, "Can he dribble?" He's like, "No, we might drool a little bit." And then
I
I
forgot
remember
about
that trailer. That's a really good trailer because it tells you everything you need to know about the movie without ever having to see the movie. It's outstanding.
it. I mean, sure.
You thought we were going to talk about Star Wars today. We're going to talk about Airbud and how.
I I barely remember that movie besides a dog really liking basketball and pudding cups. So
I think, and you never really think about it, but like the kids that Airbud would play against would have to feel miserable at the end of that game if they got
you
destroyed by a dog.
dog.
Like, how would you feel if you really wanted to play basketball, and your dad let you join the team and you're training and you finally get there and a dog shows up and just dunks on you?
Do we get ice cream? Nobody gets ice cream. You all fail.
The dog gets ice cream. That's how you make villains. That's like
Oh.
the kids on the losing team. They grow up to hate dogs their whole life.
Where was Airbud like 7, the return of BB BB Kid or something?
Yeah, you just get close to BB King. I mean, that is also probably how you get blues singers.
You got beat. There has to be a jazz song or a blues song about like how they got beat by a dog in basketball, right?
I would assume so, or like emo songs, because they grew up to be about my age. I feel like yeah, like grunge rock songs in like the late '90s, early 2000s about like my life sucks because the girl won't date me because I got beat by a dog in basketball. Kind of, you know, like Pearl Jam would have sang about it.
I got beat by a dog. Oh.
That's a good song though.
Right?
Welcome back, everybody. I went a whole 4 minutes without acknowledging our audience. That's good. Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about Star Wars. It's not as interesting as Airbud, but I guess it'll do. So today we're going to be talking about I keep saying the first 3, but it's the prequels.
We will mess up several times throughout this video, so don't
But not as
feed it.
often as George Lucas did.
Well, laser sword.
Oh, laser sword. I did it for the money. So we're gonna talk a little bit about what worked and what didn't, and we're gonna work our way through the trilogies of Star Wars. So we'll do the prequels, and we'll do the original trilogy, and then we'll do the most recent trilogy, which everyone knows is the best Star Wars adaptations, versions that we could have ever hoped for. Yas Queen and all that. So, yes, okay. So, so we'll start off a little with the first episode, episode one, the Phantom Menace. So I remember seeing the trailer for this, and I saw Darth Maul, and he had this hood on and a double-edged lightsaber. I was like, oh God, yes. um, I do remember in the original trilogy, episodes 4, 5, and 6, even though it takes place after the prequels and all that, the prequels felt like way higher technology anyway. Like even the Empire and stuff like that, it obviously didn't exist yet, but like it just felt like higher quality stuff that they had in the prequels. Um, like that double-edged lightsword. How come you didn't see any of that in the original trilogy? That kind of bugged me. It seems like that would have caught on because that's really cool. But yeah, whatever.
Really dangerous, Justin. Lightsaber safety is not a joke.
Um, it is for nerds though. So
Nerd.
yeah, bunch of nerds. Um, so but yeah, I saw Darth Maul. He looked really cool. And then I heard, oh, it's a story about young Darth Vader, and I was like, okay, you know, maybe he's like Damien. I thought maybe he would be, more interesting of a character than what we got. But I had all these high expectations, like these high hopes for the first episode, right? Because it's revisiting Star Wars, which I had seen, and I really enjoyed it. Like it's a fun story. It's lightsabers, it's lasers, it somehow mixes like a little bit of mythology and stuff with a sci-fi. It feels like a western. The prequel seems like it was going to lean more towards the sci-fi than the western aspects of the original trilogy. And then I watched it, and there's an awful lot of space treaties in there um, for any movie that isn't written by like Aaron Sorkin or something.
How old were you? Do you remember?
I was 14.
Yeah, you had to be, because I was about 10.
Yeah, yeah,
So I, as a kid, I was ecstatic. I loved watching the original Star Wars on a big screen TV that my mom's friend had, and just loving the whole idea and world building of it, and I was ready for the next one. So as a kid, it didn't really faze me that it was a bad movie until later in life. But I remember being in the theater, like in pod racing. I was lifting up, you know what the theater used to be like, with those seats where you had to pull them up and down and stuff.
yeah.
I was sitting in the theater like, so I was ecstatic, and apparently every other little kid was too. And then you watch it later in life and you're like, oh no, why did I like this?
That's a good question. I don't know why you liked it. And
Pod racing.
now this is pod racing. Wow. So for me, like I didn't start really bumping into the movie until you started seeing Jar Jar, and that's like the biggest problem with this movie that most people will point out. Like the first thing they'll point out is Jar Jar. If you take Jar Jar out, and probably if you change the Gungans from Gungans to anything else, like if they were Ewoks or something like that, this would have been a little smoother, a little easier to take. Like people can tolerate like boring movies, but they will not tolerate annoying characters in those movies. It is rough.
Yeah.
So, the start of the movie's a little slow, and then, you get into robots shooting at the Jedi, and then finally the lightsabers come out, and I was like, yeah, that's what I thought this was going to be, was, the lasers and laser swords and, deflecting stuff everywhere, and the Force a little bit. I didn't really like the rat tail coming out of the Padawan's head, but whatever. You barely see it. And then yeah, you get into the Gungan scene, and they talk weird, and it's annoying, and you understand. It's kind of like an old person trying to, make you laugh by telling you like kids jokes when you're very clearly not a kid anymore, and you're like, that's not for me, buddy. I don't laugh at those knock jokes anymore. And we were talking about this earlier. Uh, you said that it's a good plot. It's a good. It had good intentions. Um,
Hmm.
it just was not executed well.
Yeah, it from the very beginning with every Star Wars movie, like the dialogue, is going to be difficult. That's from the very beginning. George Lucas was not very good with dialogue, and they'll tell you in like
Mhm.
the behind the scenes videos. Like Mark Hamill will be like, you can't read this stuff and act at the same time. So you have to give the actors some little leeway. And I think also, like, as much as George Lucas has really good world building ideas and wants to merge all these really interesting story plot lines together, he cannot write dialogue. So
Sure, yeah.
yeah, so you get all these really interesting ideas, but they fall flat because nobody understands what the heck they're talking about. So,
Yeah.
and I'm with you on like having annoying characters in that. Jar Jar is annoying, but he's played to be annoying. The thing that really gets me is like the little kid, because I don't know if it was just like a 90s thing, but this G Willikers kind of kid, like it was just so bad. Like
Yeah.
there's the scene where he says, or what's his name?
Qui-Gon.
The Qui-Gon, yeah. Qui-Gon says to Annie, he's like, you could come live with us, and but you have to ask your mother. And then he looks at his mother, and she's like, can I go? Or he's Annie. He is like, can I go? And she's like, well, that's your decision. And he's like, I'm going. And his mom's like sad.
Yeah.
So it was just, it was bad. Like, you want him to have a little more like sympathy for his mother, like, I'm gonna leave you behind and never see you again. And
Yeah. Like, and that's something that didn't hit me until I rewatched it as an adult, is like how awful you have to be as a Jedi, as any person, to I don't know how old he is in the second movie. We'll get to that in a little bit, but like, he never goes back to visit his mom. No one ever thinks like, hey, let's go free your mom too. You've been with us for like a few months or a year, or a couple of years. We've saved up a little bit of money. Let's go buy your mom's freedom because it's your mom, right? Like,
well, the whole Jedi way is that you're supposed to let go of earthly attachments, and that counts as like an earthly attachment is love towards your mother. So most Jedi don't have a mother, and he's like the odd one out. Like, well, they all have mothers, they just never knew them. So
yeah, I don't know. I still would have done it. Like, okay, and maybe I can justify Qui-Gon not telling a child like, you're never gonna see your mom again. But on the other hand, like, wouldn't you kind of be honest with that kid? Like, this is a life changing, like, forever thing changing decision you're about to make. You're gonna have to leave your mom behind forever. You sure you want to come? Maybe it plays out a little different. I don't know. I don't think because
Yeah.
I don't think he gave that decision the gravity, that it deserved when he presented it to Anakin. And another thing, don't call Darth Vader Annie as a child. That takes away because he's way less intimidating if you can call him Annie as an adult and he'll respond to it. Like,
Don't call me Annie.
it just seems way less cool if you can give him the nickname Annie and he's used to it already. Like, yeah.
You think Palpatine was ever like, "Hey, Annie"?
And like, okay, this is probably not, it's probably not a good idea for Star Wars, but also maybe it would have been for Darth Vader's story arc. You've heard the Johnny Cash song "A Boy Named Sue," right?
Yep.
Why wouldn't Anakin be like, "Don't call me Annie"? Like, he starts getting a little bit rough. Like, I hate that place. They call me Annie there. He doesn't have friends because they all call him Annie or something. So he gets tougher and he gets a little callous towards people or something. And then like he grows up to be Darth Vader. And the moral of the story is give your kids reasonable names, not Annie, not Anakin, George. you know,
Name them a strong name.
Bill.
George.
You know. Yeah. Anyway, that's a little side thing, but I think it had a strong ending in terms of like the fight at the end. I think that was probably the best part of the movie is when Darth Maul finally shows up and like does something, and he lays waste to two Jedi, and he finally gets cut in half, but still he was cool while he lasted.
Yeah. Honestly, that movie replicates the initial movies more than any of the other ones do.
Mhm.
And I think there's a excuse for that because George Lucas, they just kept hounding him about making a new movie. And then it came out and it wasn't as popular as the older ones. So what he started doing was tweaking his storyline, tweaking how he did things just to, I guess, get the approval of all his viewers, which that's another thing.
Yeah.
There's a rumor, and I want to hear your opinion on this. There's a rumor where they say that Jar Jar Binks was going to be evil. He was going to be a Sith Lord. Do you think that would have been a better storyline?
If Jar Jar Binks was anything other than what we got, I can guarantee you that would have been a better storyline. Well, okay, so was the rumor that it wasn't until like the third movie that we saw him be, like that he was actually a bad guy, but he was played the same the other two movies?
It would have been like in the second film where Darth Vader's like, "I'm your father," but Jar Jar instead is like, "I'm not the good guy, I'm the bad guy." So there's like snippets in the film that people have pointed out where like Jar Jar's whispering underneath his breath while somebody else is talking. And if you follow the storyline, like he's pushing all these things to happen almost like, so in the pod racing scene, he is the one that disrupts, like he messes up the pod. So Annie has to fix it while he's there.
Yeah.
But it just all these different, I don't know of like a good example that you could watch them on, but yeah just look up like Jar Jar Binks Sith Lord, and there's several people that have commented on this, and I kind of like, yeah, I think it would have been way better than what we got.
I think that would work if like he was a bit more like Golem from Lord of the Rings. Like he's that kind of bad guy. Like where he's not really that imposing. He's just like real. He wishes very specific harm on people sometimes, you know, because he doesn't seem like he would have been like a real threat other than just like he throws a wrench in the works sometimes.
Well, that's what they're saying. Like his Sith Lord style is like drunken master style in Kung Fu.
He's just really, yeah.
Yeah, so he's actually doing all this stuff on purpose, like, and that makes sense to me because where did George Lucas get all this information in the first place? He's looking at like all these Asian films. So I'm kind of with it. I'm like, yeah, Jar Jar for Sith.
I think the movie had some problems, but I think it started off as a fair idea. Like, let's explore Darth Vader as a character. I didn't personally want to see him, like you said, like G. Willikers kind of a thing. I think I would have preferred, like I said, like a Damien, like a kind of a troubled child, but he still had glimmers of like good in him somewhere, and just powerful with the Force. And the Jedi are like kind of desperate to make sure that he turns out to be a Jedi rather than a Sith Lord because he's going to end up one of those things.
Yeah, like they always keep saying in the film, they're always saying like he's got fear, he's got anger, and you're like, where? I don't see that. This kid isn't playing. So
yeah.
Willikers, I'm angry.
Yeah, I think that's probably where I land on episode 1. Like it was just the execution, but I think it could have been, and they wouldn't have had to do much to fix those problems if they had just addressed them early enough. I think in the script.
Well, episode 2.
All right. Talk about episode 2. We talked about this. I don't remember much of that episode. I remember the key plot points of the episode were that you had to have Padme and Anakin fall in love. You had to have a Sith apprentice, because he wasn't really a lord yet, right? Count Dooku, because he wasn't Darth Dooku. He was...
Yeah, so he was supposed to be like, yeah, his apprentice, but I guess because he failed, this is where it gets like really like, I don't even know why Dooku was in the storyline.
Fair enough.
Besides, like, I don't know, like, here, you kill this guy, okay? Like, that's his own purpose.
Yeah.
I and maybe I'm forgetting something important, like he did something rebellious. I don't know, but
I don't remember. I know what's his name? Anakin's like real angry at him. I just don't remember. But that's not until the third movie, right? Because it's pretty early on in the third movie to kill him.
Did he no, it was a bunch of raiders that killed his mother, so
yeah.
Like that doesn't even connect. Like you would think maybe he would want to kill him more if he's like connected to his mother's death, right?
You'd think so. You'd think something would make sense in this movie, but you should know.
I am writing this on the fly.
Okay, so yeah, you have Dooku revealed as the bad guy or whatever, and then at some point you have General Grievous in there, which he looks cool, but I'm not really sure why he's there either. You have what else? What else goes on in this movie? Yeah, you have Anakin kind of more towards the dark side.
You have the clones, the miniature version of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was really just like a fan, glimpse really of of Boba Fett. Like, here's what he was, cute
That's
little
right.
kid. And then you learn more about like Palpatine's plan, and he takes over the Senate, right? In this
Yeah,
one or
that is the second
one?
one.
Second one. Okay.
Is the second one?
I don't know. I honestly forgot this whole storyline.
Yeah, like, and I think that's kind of the problem is that like so much stuff happens, but it's not really that important to other stuff that's happening. So it's easy to displace when things occur, like when events occur in this movie. I feel like it happened probably in the third movie because that's whenever he becomes the most powerful and he's like the biggest threat to the Jedi, and they realize, oh, he's actually a Sith Lord. That's when they go to arrest him, and he's like, I am the Jedi, and then he starts like flipping around with his lightsaber and stuff. So that's probably the third movie. I think in the second movie, he gets like I don't know, like power of attorney or something. I don't remember what he gets, but he gets.
Power of attorney.
I think like they give him like special like habeas corpus powers or something like that, political powers in this movie, like emergency, you know, control of the Senate or something like that.
Well, that's it. I know the storyline. Like I remember that Obi-Wan is like suspicious of why he's making the clones, but then at the end it's like, oh, we made the clones because of the war, of course, and then like everyone's okay with it, and then
Yeah.
like you get the whole Clone Wars cartoon and nobody says anything
Mm-hmm.
about how dangerous the clones are.
Yeah.
But
And I think the concept of this movie is not bad. You have, you know, intrigue. You have, kind of like this guy who's seeking power. He makes an army, then he makes a war to justify the army, and then he kind of makes it to where he has to be in charge. He reluctantly accepts that power to be in charge of both like the Senate and that army that he created for the war that he started, and it kind of just puts himself in this power position. That's not bad. That's actually a pretty good concept for the movie. It's just again the way we get there, and we have like this really labored love story between Natalie Portman, who doesn't really want to be there, it seems like, and Hayden Christensen, right?
yeah,
Who they're making the poor kid act like a creepy dude. He's just real weird, and like he puts his arm around her a lot, and it's like, oh, I don't like how much touching's going on. Leave some room for Jesus.
I think the issue that I have is basically related with the casting for the initial movie, because it made it look like, well, Natalie Portman looked older, much older than that other kid, even
Yeah.
though they were what, like 4 years apart or something.
Something like that. But yeah, she looked like she was already like 17, 18, and he was still like 9 or 10.
Yeah, he looked very young and she looked 18 or so. So then when you get to the next movie, you're like, oh, this
Had a
is
growth
little
spurt.
kid.
Yeah.
But it and he's not romantic, and I don't know if this is because like 90s standard of romantic was different from now, or it's confusing to me because listening to it now, it's just kind of like, oh, you get away from me. And she says several times, no, we're not gonna do this, and he's like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, but think about it. Well, like I don't think they can really use the '90s as an excuse, like because there were like I think decent romance movies in the '90s, I'm sure, but like uh, look at the Star Wars that was made in the '70s. There was a genuine romance going on between Han Solo and Leia. They had chemistry.
They had chemistry, but it was still played like the
He's a
actors.
scoundrel.
the actors had chemistry, but the lines were still kind of like, no, don't. And he's still going after her. So,
So, okay, so maybe if you can't save it with writing, you have to save it with casting, and they couldn't save it with either in the in episode 2. Okay,
I,
that's fair.
yeah, that's unfortunate because I've had it terribly explained to me, and it makes me sad a little bit because I really did like the story of Luke and or not Luke and Leia. Don't. uh,
Too late.
of Leia and Han, but when you listen to like the actual words and you go back and you're like, oh, that's sad. Like you always want to think that's the best romance ever, and then you listen to it and like, no.
I think, yeah, and I will say, I don't know if I thought it was like the best romance, but I did think that it was better than the one between Padme and Anakin, and I think, but you are right though, that was more, it was saved by the chemistry between uh, the two actors. Both had charisma and both knew how to act to those characters, um, and make them likable. Um, and I want to like Natalie Portman more than I want to like Hayden Christensen. I want to like her in that movie, but it's real hard, like I'm trying.
I again, like I said at the beginning, like I don't want to blame the actors too much because the dialogue is difficult. It's hard to listen to. It's like new age Shakespeare. So, but not like like amazing. So,
Good way.
but not in a good way. It's hard to understand. That's why.
Potential, but it just didn't quite live up to it. It lost the momentum a few times in that movie.
It's the one movie I always skip. Let's move on to probably the best one.
Definitely the best one for me. Yeah, I hate that one the most. Um, so Revenge of the Sith was the strongest the strongest ending I think we could have hoped for in this trilogy. Um,
Oh.
Not strong all the way through, but there's definitely some scenes in that where you're just like, that's a bad call. But there were some good aspects, and I think most, I think at least for most of the Star Wars movies, if you don't really care for the movie, you can depend on the ending of that movie for something cool with lightsabers. If there's nothing else justifying this movie to you, the end of the movie, you will find two people with laser swords just smacking the crap out of each other, and it's the best feeling in the world. Um, and it's meaningful if you're lucky, and I think that's probably why this is the strongest ending in terms of like a big fight, um, out of that trilogy, is because this is the one where I guess a rift between Obi-Wan and Anakin that is going to set off the rest of the trilogies.
Yeah, I wish they had explored, like in the earlier films. I guess they kind of did, like the brotherly connection, but it wasn't as strong as I wish it could have been. Because when you get that moment, and you only see that moment, if you never watched anything else in the whole first few episodes, I would say there's more connection than anyone in that whole film between Obi-Wan and Anakin. They know, they're supposed to know each other the best. Like, and it's heartbreaking. It's supposed to be heartbreaking. But when you watch the first 2 episodes, you're like, it's not that heartbreaking. Where were you, Obi?
It's not that heartbreaking, but I think there is I think it's probably just a testament to how good of an actor Ewan McGregor is that you do feel like he is heartbroken, even though it doesn't make any sense because you've seen the other two episodes. You still feel for him, and again, it's a example of an actor kind of saving the script a little bit because you logically you can follow why they're there, but emotionally you might be able to.
I fun fact. Um, so Ian McGregor, when he was shooting the Star Wars films, they had to cut a bunch because he would make lightsaber sounds while he would be fighting. So like people just got fed up with it.
Listen, I get it. that's that's that makes the most sense out of all of these movies.
He's a diehard fan.
Yeah, I get it. Um, um, and yeah, he probably was like the most likable actor or character in all of the movies. Um, I did like Samuel L. Jackson, but he didn't make it through all of the movies. So
He made well. He
I mean, he
made
was
it
in all of the movies, but
through the
like,
first.
yeah. Mm,
It would have been hard to explain why he is alive in like
yeah,
I don't know.
I guess. Um, but the plot of it, I think I think for the third movie, the plot of it was mostly kind of done for them because they really just had to connect like the last two dots. You know, basically is push Palpatine over the edge to become Palpatine, and then push Anakin over the edge to be Vader, and that's kind of all you needed to do in this movie for the next three movies to be set up, and that's it. You're done.
Push them
And
to
that,
be so eventually one can push the other off of a bridge.
there's a lot of pushing going.
All
Um, but yeah, I think that probably was my favorite one. And like you said, there's that scene at the end where Darth Vader yells "No," and it bummed some people out. I get it. It's not the best. That's not the best way they could have done it, but um, there's a lot of good stuff in that movie. I think, and a lot of it's just kind of there at the end with that fight. For me, at least, that's kind of where I found the more redeemable qualities of this movie. Was with like Ewan McGregor and his arc.
I feel like they wasted Natalie Portman's character a little bit. Like she could have really I mean, they could have pushed what happened to her more because it really doesn't make a lot of sense to me besides like somebody attempting to kill her that one time. Like why would Anakin be so worried about everything? So it's like we needed a little more backstory.
Yeah, more character development from her would have been nice. Like I said, I want to like her in these movies, but it's real hard because, and I guess that might be what it is. They just don't give her a lot to work with.
Yeah. And then she just gives up. What the heck? Like, she loved him so much, even though in the second movie she kept telling him no. Like, okay.
So, like I said, yeah, I would have liked to have seen these movies take a slightly different turn. Um, I understand that like it does feel more like a sci-fi trilogy than the Western trilogy that the first one or the original trilogy felt like. Um, but like little elements of like horror or something like that to just kind of push Anakin towards that dark side of like really bad stuff has to happen to this kid in order for him to be like, I need to be a Sith at some point. Like it needs to be like a deep seated fear and anger and hatred inside of him. So like I think I would have pushed more towards like a darker version of these these stories. I'm not saying it has to go like super dark, right, and betray what Star Wars is. I just think it should go a little more tragic, at least, with his story.
And these movies, again, we are two adults talking about 13-year-old boy movies. So, and that is what George Lucas said they were for. He said these movies are for 14 or 13-year-old boys. So,
Yeah.
I guess we can give it a little leniency, but
A little bit, but here's the thing. I was 14 when I saw this movie, and it wasn't for me.
well, okay, you weren't 14 when the third one came out. I was like 15 when the last one came out. I was in high school.
No, I'm saying I was 14 when the first one came out, when the episode 1, yeah. But like, I don't know of a time in my life where I would have watched that and been like, I feel represented on screen as this annoying little kid who doesn't love his mother, apparently.
Oh, I thought you were talking about you being represented on the screen as the little boy who laughed really maniacally.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I can relate to that. I've been told numerous times that my laugh is unsettling, and I take it as a compliment every time.
Blow him up, Dad.
Get him. You want to go to Chuck E. Cheese, Justin? Yeah. I'd have done that. I did that all the time when I was a kid. I love Chuck E. Cheese. Anyway, so we've kind of aired out like our problems, our difficulties with these movies. What would you like to have seen them do better? You've got more authority, I feel like, on this fandom than I do. As much as I do enjoy these movies, I can't say that I'm like deeply involved in the characters. I'm just like, I do like those movies. They're enjoyable.
Yeah, I would say that just everything that we've talked about, summing it up, like show Anakin with more like early onset anger issues or something like that. Less chat, more action.
That can fix a lot of problems in a movie, like a sci-fi movie. Yeah, I think you're right.
It was just too wordy, too many diplomatic scenes, I guess, or just diplomatic scenes that didn't really make any sense. Like, why is this happening? Why would you do that? What's Dooku here for? So just kind of connecting your whole storyline, and that's going to be a problem throughout all of these, but
yeah,
I feel like you don't watch Star Wars for the dialogue. Nobody does. We watch it for the lasers. We watch it for the interesting plot.
Yeah, I think that's
like you don't have to. I could describe Star Wars, like the first ones, as movies that you don't really have to hear the words to understand what's happening, because you go from scene to scene, and they consciously divide it where you know that you're in a different place, in a different time, and you could pretty much just put it on silent and know, like, oh, okay, they just got kidnapped, now they have to go after it. Oh, look, he's got a sword. And then, like, there's a few actual lines that you have to have, like, I'm your father. Like, okay, that makes sense. Or, like, we need to go find Leia because she needs our help. But everything else in there is kind of just, like, filler. You feel like that?
I think there is something to be said. I think you're right. I think there is something to be said about the storytelling, the ability to tell a visual story without relying so much on the script. And I think you were talking about editing earlier, and I think that's part of it is you do tend to jump around quite a bit in the first or the first three episodes, um, to
The
where
first
like
episodes made, or the first 3 episodes?
episodes 1, 2, and 3. Oh my god. Um, no, like episodes 1, 2, and 3, you jump around a lot, and there's so much um, unimportant story writing on uh, droning dialogue. And everyone knows, yes, the Senate stuff is boring. The Senate stuff is what kills the action. You want to kill a cool lightsaber scene, cut to C-SPAN in space, and people are talking about like passing this and whatever, and I'm like, I just show me that things blowing up, and then this kid doesn't think that the Force is real, and then he does, and then he's blowing stuff up too. Give me that wonder that episodes 4, 5, and 6 had, of a journey of amazement and magic. Space wizards. Give me space wizards. God dang it. I don't care about politics. I don't care about real politics that actually affect my life. Why would I care about fake politics that don't affect anything?
I just agree with that part, but
Yeah,
like,
that's how I feel. I don't care. That's how I feel.
yeah, it's just too much about, and I would really love an in-depth, well-written storyline that had to do with like the politics that led up to why they're in rebellion anyways. But
Yeah.
didn't get that in this one. We got it in the off, like not even connected to the episodes movie. What is it? Your
Rogue
favorite
One.
movie? Rogue
That's my
One, yeah.
We'll talk
We
about
got
that.
more information in that movie than we ever, well, about politics.
We got enough, I think, and I think that's what made Rogue One really hit home for me, is that it was about the war, like the effects of all of these politics. You didn't feel the weight of it. You never
Yeah.
got to feel the weight of what war was, or what the cost of war was, of growing attachments to these characters, um, some human, some not, but all likable characters, and then losing them in a real war, because that's what is called Star Wars, and you never get to feel the gravity of the situation, um, even in episodes 4, 5, and 6, where you see like um, the Empire shooting at like the good guys and stuff. You see all these no names dying, sure. And the closest emotion you feel to like a loss is in the, what is it, Empire? No, it's not Empire Strikes Back. It's Return of the Jedi or whatever. Whenever like one of those Ewoks dies, and the other one that goes Jeb 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 Jeb,
Oh,
and then like you're like, oh, Jub Jub died, but like you didn't know Jub Jub. Jub Jub was just
yeah.
a cute animal, and now the cute animal is dead, because these guys in like armored tuxedos they shot at him, and that sucks. But like in Rogue One, you get to feel that like as a whole movie. They're all Jub Jub, and you get to feel for Jub Jub.
It's because they're acting it out and they're not talking about it. That's action is better than words. And I think that was the issue that you had with these initial, well, not initial, these episodes 1, 2, and 3. Like,
Yeah.
you have that just boring dialogue.
Sure.
And I don't know how many times I have to say it. Like, I have to shut up about it because it.
Well, we should probably end it there anyway. We've been going on for about 40 minutes or so. You guys have a good night, or whenever it is that you're watching this. We're recording this real late, but
Oh, yeah.
you guys have a good rest of the week. I'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Cool.
Let's talk about Airbud again. We're doing out.
Airbud was the Citizen Kane of my generation, and I'll tell you why. That dog could do anything, but it wasn't just about the dog. It was about his puppies. I don't know if you know about Space Buds.
No.
We'll talk about that next time.
No, we won't.
Fantastic. I'm gonna talk about it next time on this fantastic show that you're watching.
No. Watch it, but don't play the sound.
I'm gonna watch that show. You're gonna watch me talk about Airbud and Space Buds for 45 minutes.